from Joya, now I lose the airplane, and the next day a C-47 picks up crew up, and we go to Italy. Pantanel, Italy. And Pantanel was never used ever as a call sign for us landing there. It was racetrack power. Never a base would never be mentioned in radio communication ever, because that would again show location. And so racetrack tower was the name of the base. But what really shocked me when I arrived there, if I could get myself together, the greeting that I got when I got there. Our squadron commander was Colonel Paw, and he was evidently a very aloof officer. He did not even greet me. But that wasn't, I didn't resent that as much as I says, where are my quarters for my crew, my officers and my enlisted crew? Sir, you'll have to go to supply. They will issue you a tent. Now that really rubbed me. I could get mean, but boy, I was really, so I'm a plane captain. Why on earth did somebody come to greet me? Why isn't my tent pitched? Why do the enlisted have to pitch their tent? That's no way to treat an arrival. And again, that's the way it was. For my officers, we pitched that tent and set the thing up, and I lived in it for the rest of the war period. That was my home. There was no such thing. And I got to correct Larry on one thing. He mentioned barracks. He meant tent. later in America, there were lots of barracks. No such thing. No such thing. We all lived in tents. Some of us lived longer in the tent. You can imagine now, 4 officers in the tent, 6 enlisted men in the tent. And the tent, there's a regular size military tent. They haven't changed any sizes or anything. The people tent was the same. Now we had in this tent these cots, folding cots. On top of the cot was a mummy-type sleeping bag. And a footlocker. Each of us had a footlocker. And then on the back of my tent, we had to put up a little rack so we could hang up our heavy fight clothing and stuff on the rack. That was our entire worldly possession. Absolutely nothing. So we lived out of the footlocker. And people ask me, well, what did you do with the time you had when you weren't flying? I don't remember. I really don't. I don't know what the hell I did at that time, but I must have been doing something. But fortunately, George Carnegie put me to work in operations, and I may have had some additional duty to keep me busy. But we went along for that. But we got the tents set on up, and that's where we lived in those tents. How were the tents heated in the winter? That again, you could have a movie about just on that one facet. The military did not have a stove that came out of supply that you put in your tent. They were manufactured right there, and they used 50-gallon drums of old oil drums cut in half and made into stoves. They took metal that they stole out of the supply for the Liberator hydraulics and made a U-shaped burner and had a valve out of the bomb bay fuel system to control the fuel. And then the aircraft fuel truck delivered 100-octane fuel to a tank they gave you to put on the side of your tent, and that was our heating system. And how many tents we blew up, how many tents we put in. Oh, God. And each had a little stove pipe going on. A few guys were Larry just mentioned they lost 3 tents in one day. This is one of the most dangerous things you've ever seen. 100-octane fuel running around in that stove. Anyway, so that's our heating system. The water system, I don't even up to this day remember much about the water system. There was no water system per se, and how we managed there. I know all of our bathroom facilities, there was no such thing as a formal shower or anything like that. It was the old outdoor biffy type bathrooms that were relocated periodically. We showered occasionally and had a big tank of water mounted on some 4 pieces of heavy timber, and we get under there and pull a ripcord, and then we'd eat that and shower. But bathing was not something really that we could frequent. It was just it was a rare occasion. So occasionally they would send us to rest camp, and rest camp was the first decent shower and bath we had, the first decent meal we ever had. My first rest camp was the island of Capri, believe it or not. They had the grottos, or whatever they call them, grottos or whatever. But oh, they had a beautiful hotel set up on a hill overlooking a cliff, and they treated us like royalty. Another thing is, when I watched the movie about that red-tailed fighter outfit, what do they call that movie?
Red Tails. Yeah.
The red tail thing. Yeah, the Tuskegee Airmen. Someone mentioned this to me. They noted that these pilots of this Tuskegee Airmen movie all had always uniforms on, and night hats, the 50 mission hats on, and uniforms. I can't recall of any time ever wearing a uniform. Well, except when I went to rest camp. Never. I was in my flight clothing. I never, ever had any of my uniform on when I lived in that tent. I lived in a flight suit, and that was about it. There was very little. So that movie, to be very fictional, people did wear uniforms in combat. That was strictly for socializing. And we had no luxury uniforms, and I'll guarantee you, we didn't have to have a uniform on when we went to dinner at the mess. Guarantee you on that.